any case, we have an amazing story here. An employment tribunal has ruled that 8 Darlington nurses were harassed by their NHS trust after raising concerns about sharing female changing rooms.
Yes, judges cleared the transgender colleague of wrongdoing, but said the trust's actions violated the nurse's dignity, creating this hostile and degrading workplace environment with serious implications for policy and staff protections across the NHS.
OK, well, joining us now is LGBTQ activist Mathew Hulbert. Mathew, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us. I mean, common sense has prevailed in this case.
Hi, Tom and Dawn. So good to be with you this afternoon. Look, I mean, all I can tell you is that I chaired an LGBT plus charity here in Leicestershire for many years, and we worked a lot with trans people. And these were overwhelmingly people that just wanted to go about their daily lives as the person they knew themselves to be, without fear of persecution or hostility. I don't think that should be too much to ask.
OK, what about the rights of women to go about their daily lives without any fear of threat or hostility, to use your word? What about the rights of women?
Yeah, of course, and everyone has rights, and they all should be respected. And I guess what I'd say is that, you know, if two different sets of rights clash, then the answer is not to go to 100 in terms of your anger. The answer is to sit down and talk and say, how can we reach a position where each group of people has their rights respected? Now, is that going to be an easy thing to do? No, of course, in every case, it's not. And clearly, we've got a situation here where, you know, from what I understand, the trans person has been found to have not done anything wrong. But we're also in a situation where the nurses, if I can use the term, and I know some people don't like it, but the cis nurses, the women who were born as women, they also feel that, you know, they've had a situation where they feel they have not been respected either. Situations like this are not easy, but what I really don't like, I have to say, is when a single case like this is extrapolated to try and say something wider about trans people. I don't think that is at all fair.
This seems like it's become a very recent point of animosity. I mean, 20 or 30 years ago, you didn't get this sort of back and forth and clashing and all the rest of it, perhaps back when we referred to people as transsexual rather than transgender, and it's become all very, very confused in recent years. And I just wonder if the rise of identity politics promoted by some of the more radical elements of the LGBTQ community are now being sort of hoisted by their own petard, because you have one element of identity politics. This is our identity. We must protect our identity and have the government come in and provide us things for our identity. But now they're up against another group who are using their identity in exactly the same way. And that's the identity of women.
This interruption is brought to you by ExpressVPN and their New Year deal. New Year, new VPN, and a huge saving of up to 80% if you act now. You're busy planning how to get in shape, but the hackers are planning how to get into your accounts. ExpressVPN locks down your connection so you can start the year protecting your data. So scan the QR code or click the link in the description now.
Indeed, and I would say that all women deserve to have their rights respected, and that includes trans women. I mean, trans women are just as likely to be attacked by cisgender men as are cis women. So, I mean, you know, this situation is difficult.
Do you have any statistics to back that up, Mathew?
Well, I'm going on what I hear, and I'm going on years of experience as the chair of an LGBT plus charity here in Leicestershire. So, yeah, it is anecdotal, but all I can tell you is that was my experience during those years. And honestly, I don't know how to communicate to you the fact that, you know, some trans people face persecution every single day, just trying to get on the bus, just trying to go to the doctors, just trying to shop in their local supermarket. And that is equally as unacceptable as is cis women feeling that their rights have been threatened in some way.
Yes, of course, no one should feel threatened going about their everyday business, but the Supreme Court has ruled that trans women, to use your terminology, are biological men, and they have no place in women's spaces.
Well, actually, I think the Supreme Court judgment was far more nuanced, actually, than how it has often been portrayed. The Supreme Court judgment made very clear that everyone has rights and that trans people continue to have their rights covered by other legislation. And so, I'll just repeat that when rights clash, the answer is to try and sit down and have a sensible conversation and reach a compromise. It's not to get to anger level 100 and think that that is going to provide an adequate resolution. It quite clearly isn't.
But perhaps somewhere that we could reach common ground on is that the Supreme Court determined that within the context of the Equality Act, a transgender woman is not the same thing as a biological woman. That was the confines of the judgment from the Supreme Court. Perhaps we could all agree that the Equality Act was a badly drafted piece of legislation, that it tried to provide lots of things to lots of different groups of people. It's provided huge amounts of legal arbitrage in all directions. It's helped reduce the dynamism of the British economy. It's made for a worse working environment, a more hostile working environment. Perhaps it's time to repeal the Equality Act.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't say that we should repeal it at all. As a gay man, I feel that it gives me protection. I've faced persecution for being a gay man in the past, not regularly, thank goodness, because society has largely changed. And I think that goes to show a wider point that I don't know what you two think about this or your viewers and listeners, but I think trans folk are the only group it's now kind of acceptable to persecute. And I think that's wrong.
Sorry, could you say that again, mate? Transphobes are the only group it's acceptable to persecute.
I think increasingly in our culture, in our media culture, and in our social media culture, that trans people are the only group, it seems to me, that it seems acceptable to persecute.
It was the nurses that were being persecuted in this particular case.
Indeed, and I've already said that they should absolutely have their rights. You're not going to get me saying that they shouldn't have their rights and that they shouldn't.
I don't want you to say
want
that.
To feel safe. And that they shouldn't want to feel safe at work. Of course they should. But so should trans people who can't get on the bus or go to the doctors or go to the supermarket or whatever without comments being made and sometimes without physical threats of violence as well. Both things are unacceptable.
OK, Mathew, thank you very much. That's LGBTQ activist Mathew Hulbert there.
I just think things were a lot simpler in the 2000s.
I think you're right to a certain extent. I do think the debate has been hijacked and politicised with a lot of violence coming from the transgender community aimed at biological women. Lots of women have had rape, myself included, rape and death threats over talking out about biological reality. And that would and should not happen. Matthew's right. Obviously, nobody should feel threatened for going to the supermarket or getting on public transport, etc., etc. However, this has been hijacked and the violence is only coming from one side and it's not women.
But it also does seem that it's just got more and more extreme over the last few years. I mean, when J.K. Rowling put out her original tweet, it was, wear what you want, dress as you want, I'll support you in how you want to live your life. And it seems like we've moved from that point.
And I obviously can't speak for J.K. Rowling, but she still feels the same. Most women feel the same. I don't want to... do what you want with your life. But
I think there's been some entrenchment.
Your rights do not trump my rights.
Yeah. Well, this is